Look, first of all, I just want to tell you guys that it's really amazing to be surrounded by people who care enough about music to want to hear someone talk about music, you know. So thank you for being here, and thanks for your interest and for your attention. This is from a new book called The Sound of Culture, right? Or I might call it What Culture Sounds Like, but I'm not sure yet. But this is a chapter from that book, and the book is really all of my essays that have been about reggae music and how reggae music, really the transformation that reggae music has caused in how we think about the world, right? I don't take reggae for granted. For me, reggae is not just a form of music, and I don't think you're here because you think reggae is just pleasant sounds to the ear. Reggae has so informed how the world not only makes and produces and reproduces music, reggae music has really constructed, invented this thing that we call Africa, right? And that's one of my arguments, that our understanding of what this thing called Africa is, was, or could be, a lot of it has to do with reggae. Now that's also a problem. So much of what I'm talking about today is the difficulty of differentiating, making differences between Africa the fantasy and Africa the reality. And I think sometimes reggae music and our love for reggae music gets caught up in the fantasy, so much so that we cannot make sense of what's actually going on in Africa. And that's part of the difficulties and the beauty of this thing called reggae, particularly roots reggae music. So this piece, it's in 3 parts. I'll break after a couple of minutes to have some vibes come in, so I'll trust my DJ there to put in the music just in time. So it's a 3-part piece, and it's largely inspired by the death of Lucky Dubé. Anyone know Lucky Dubé?
Yes. Yep.
South African reggae musician. It's about his murder and what happened. This becomes a eulogy for Lucky Dubé. Words spoken at the grave of someone that is dead, but I'm hoping that you'll understand that for me, it's not just a eulogy for someone that has been killed, someone that is dead. It's a eulogy for a way of thinking about Africa that might be dead too, and that I think should die. Okay. Now, it's often the case that certain black musical forms, they tell the story of history, they chart history, and also signal changes in the rhythms and the beats and the styles and social arrangement through the vision of the world that can be told through murder. Reggae is obsessed with murder. Murder as a way of telling history. Murder as a topic. I don't think I have to tell you how many reggae songs are about murder. Murder as a topic, murder as a metaphor, murder as a symbol, murder as a product of the very divided social worlds and the violent historical places that black music's almost always come from, right? Reggae is no stranger to this kind of thinking about history through dead bodies, right? In fact, I think reggae has been the most prominent form in the African world to tell the story of colonialism through murder, to tell the story of colonialism as it shifted from the rhetoric of revolutionary violence to what we call the bombastic language of street-level violence and sectarianism, where the narco-terrorists and all kind of badmanism would emerge in the Caribbean in between political independence and cultural freedom, right? So the story of reggae music can be seen as from ska to rocksteady, to roots, to dancehall, and to hip-hop, right? From the symbolic and ritual soundboy burials, right? That are dependent on symbolic and lyrical gunfire. But at the same time, the history of reggae is the history of revolution as it becomes cold-blooded murder, right? One could put the story that way. As the general politics of black pride and global Pan-African solidarity and unity, that begins to fragment into increasingly narrow and small commitments for a generation that came too late for organized political resistance, but at the same time were armed with weapons that their elders could never have imagined. Now we know that reggae is known for its optimism. Optimism in struggle, and the way it celebrates the passionate and pleasurable nature of rebellion and resistance. But Jamaican reggae also has inside of it a not-too-secret history of intra-racial black-on-black terror, violence, and murder, right? Now, we know from reggae, those of you who are aware of the music, the list of songs in reggae that memorialize the victims of gunfire is a long and noteworthy list. However, I think that the dark side of reggae is actually captured best in dub. The swirling echoes of dub music are also metaphors, black metaphors of loss and alienation, right? The disembodied voices that move in and out of the mix, it's also the sound of ghosts, right? The dead, the recently killed. Now this dark vision of reggae, this violent vision of the African world, is one thing that reggae has bequeathed, has given birth to in its two primary children, dancehall and hip-hop. These are genres that always celebrate the recent dead, while at the same time, although they won't necessarily admit it, they at the same time draw a sense of cultural power, machismo, and authority by their willingness to commit murder. Right? Now, with the death of Lucky Dubé, who you may or may not know was shot and killed in gun violence, now that an African performer of reggae has been made official by being shot, right? This makes me wonder less about the history and the future of African reggae or the impact of reggae in Africa. It makes me think more about how reggae's concept of Africa gets shot, right? How reggae's understanding of the African world and of race itself becomes used and abused in Africa. I'm going to say more about this in a while, but keep in mind when I talk about the impact of roots reggae in Africa, I don't mean that roots reggae impacted Africa just because it's music. One of the things that reggae brings to Africa is a very understanding of this thing called race, right? We may take for granted that Africans understand race and racism. No. Reggae is crucial to introducing to a lot of Africans who understand themselves through traditional tribal ethnicities, right? Tiv, Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani, not through race. So reggae is very crucial because it brings to Africa an understanding of race, and in fact it brings to Africa an understanding of Africa, right? Which is something I'm going to say more about as I move on.